Good evening and welcome to tonight's recognition program. I'm Dennis Peterson, Superintendent of Minnetonka Schools. We begin each regular school board meeting recognizing the outstanding accomplishments of students, staff, and community members for their positive impact on our district. Tonight, we are recognizing amazing achievement in arts, activities, and athletics. We're also honoring an award earned by a district employee. We'll begin by recognizing our student artists. 3 times each year, our art teachers select a variety of pieces to display here at the District Service Center. This is one way we celebrate the outstanding work of our students and our commitment to fine arts education. I want to thank our student artists and their teachers for loaning their work to us for public enjoyment. It's wonderful to see the variety of media students use to express their artistic talent. The selections this season are from students at our 2 middle schools, and they are exceptional. Our middle school art teachers who will introduce the students we are recognizing tonight are Emily Schweigel and Andrea Potler from MMW, and Renee Rolls and Bill Finnerty from MME. Last month, these teachers and art students were able to connect during a special Google Meet to honor the students' accomplishments.
Hi, everyone. Artists, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your work to be displayed with Minnetonka Schools community. We are recognizing you as a part of the DSC Honored Artist Showcase. Your artwork has been chosen by your teacher to represent the amazing pieces created by middle school this year. Your work is now being displayed at the District Service Center. From painting and drawing to sculpture and digital art, you have truly used a wide variety of techniques and mediums to add beauty to our district. Being part of this group is an honor, and we applaud you for your effort. We will celebrate now by showing your image of your artwork as we read your names. When we read your name, please give a wave. And right now I'm turning it over to Mrs. Rolls at MME.
Hello, art students. Thank you for joining us. We'll start with MME, Amelia Osted, Mateo Bonner, Camden Fowler, Aiden Hollins, Sloan Riley, Paisley Miller, Vivian Nguyen, Penny Sasek, Vivian Scrivener, and Emmy Smith.
All right, I'm taking over for MMW now. Sophia Anderson Barrera, Ruby Brass, Gavin Durant, Annabelle Dozier, Maya Holland, Evangeline Fung, Tyler Lambert, Wyatt Langen, Anika Samir, Andrew Segan, Ava Sorensen, Madison Swenson, Victoria Wall, Haley Zitzloff, and now Andrea Potler.
Hello, I'm Andrea Potler over at MMW. I'm excited to be here. Artists I will be presenting today, Sophia Elliott, Catherine Hatlestad, Jersey Lotion, Esther Peterson, Rayan Matthew, Violet Nelson, Donica Vandestarts, Vio Waite, and Charlotte Wakefield. Now on to Bill Finnerty.
Hey, welcome students and family members, fellow teachers, district personnel, everyone, welcome. And we're here to celebrate this great work. Mila Broberg, Saren Coffey, Andrew Debris, Svetlana Gonikman, Zell Grady, Tommy Howland, Adra Jasper, Naomi Nia Patton, Zane Perry, Amaria Reed, Grace Severson, Ramona Sweetman, Anika Tran, Olivia Zabel. Congratulations.
And again, congratulations to each one of you. We are so proud of you. And again, we thank you for sharing your art with us.
Congratulations again to our teachers and artists. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. Minnetonka's music program is recognized throughout the state for its excellence. Our band, choral, and orchestra directors have built a strong reputation for developing outstanding young musicians. As a result, our students are often selected to participate in honor ensembles throughout the region, state, and nation. Tonight, we will be recognizing a group of high school musicians who were named to the Minnesota Music Educators Association All-State Band, Choir, and Orchestra this year, as well as students selected to be part of the Minnesota Middle Level Honors Orchestra. Let's learn more about these awards from Minnetonka music teachers and students.
Hi, I'm Seraphin Sommerfeld, and I am the orchestra director for Minnetonka High School. On behalf of our department, I would like to say how proud I am of our orchestra students for their acceptance into the Middle Level Honors Orchestra, and for those students who participated in All-State Orchestra this year. It takes a lot of effort and discipline to prepare for and take part in these ensembles beyond the school day. You have all done an amazing job. Thank you for everything you bring to the Minnetonka Music Program.
On behalf of the Minnetonka High School band directors, the band students, and the Minnetonka High School band boosters, we would like to congratulate Adam, Parker, Tyler, Claire, and Ruby for their outstanding accomplishment of successfully auditioning and participating in this year's All-State Music Program. We are so very proud of your accomplishments and very thankful that you're a role model in our program and musical leaders. Again, congratulations and thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Kors, and I'm one of the choir directors at Minnetonka High School. On behalf of the choir department, I would just like to say congratulations and awesome work on being selected for the All-State Honor Choirs. It's a big deal, and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication just to get in. And then it takes a lot of extra outside of school hours time to learn the music by yourself, have it ready to go for that long day of rehearsals and that performance. So great work, and thank you for all that you bring to Minnetonka choirs.
Hi, my name is Juliet Sakarla. I am in 10th grade, and I had the wonderful opportunity to be a part of the Minnesota ACDA Honor Choir. It was such an amazing experience because we were able to not only learn so much about music, but also really connect with each other through that music. And how it works is that it's basically a day-long practice. We practiced from 8 to about 5 o'clock, and then we had a performance that evening, and none of us had ever met each other before or even met our director. We were able to really come together and create an amazing performance.
My name is Elsie Falconer, and I got into the Minnesota Honors Orchestra. It was very tiring to have a 10-hour rehearsal, but it was still really fun. At the concert, I think we played really well for only practicing the previous day. I was first violin, so I got the melody for most of the time, but there were some other sections in the orchestra that also had the melody in places, and it sounded really cool.
My name is Savannah Larson, and I am a 9th grader. The most impactful moment of being in the Minnesota Honors Orchestra was seeing how the work that I did practicing the pieces came together and seeing how my part fit in with that of the other sections. I enjoyed learning more about how to improve my technique in sectionals practice and found it very cool to be playing with other musicians who were very talented and passionate about music. I am most proud of the way our orchestra was able to listen to the feedback of our conductor and effectively demonstrate musicality and phrasing as a whole in many of the pieces.
Hello, my name is Claire Atchison. I am a senior at Minnetonka High School, and I'm being recognized for participating in All-State Orchestra. One of the most memorable moments from All-State was probably getting a chance to play with kids from all over the state who I've never even met before, but we were able to bond because of our shared love for music, which I thought was really cool. And I'm most proud of the fact that our orchestra was able to perform such difficult repertoire. We were told that these pieces that we did were some of the hardest that All-State Orchestra has ever done. So I'm just really proud of us for being able to work together and make it sound really good.
Congratulations to the following student musicians. From choir, Emily Badeau, Kira Martin, Juliet Sakara, and Samuel Balacourt. From band, Parker Griswold, Claire Huang, Ruby Martin, Adam Rickman, and Tyler Wazalewski. From orchestra, Claire Atchison, Cheyun Lee, Mei-Ling Mather, Sonia Pillai, Lauren Schrafels, Alexandra Wagner, Elizabeth Wong, and Gabriella Wiese. And from the Minnesota Middle Level Honors Orchestra, Elsie Falconer, Abigail Hudson, Savannah Larson, and Faith Seo. We would also like to acknowledge our Minnetonka High School Music Program Directors, Miles Mortensen, Band, Aaron Kors, Choir, and Sarah Finn Sommerfeld, Orchestra. Congratulations and thank you. Since 1923, the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards program has provided opportunities for teens to be recognized on a state and national level, earn scholarships, and have their artwork and writing exhibited and published. The annual Scholastic Writing Award competition is open to students in grades 7 through 12. All submissions are judged on originality, technical skill, and the emergence of a persona, vision, or voice. We are also pleased that so many Minnetonka students submit original creative work to the program every year. This year, 21 Minnetonka students have earned top honors for both writing and art. Their work was chosen out of more than 320,000 submissions nationwide. 16 students earned 28 art awards, including 2 gold keys, 10 silver keys, and 15 honorable mentions. 5 additional students earned 9 writing awards this year, including 1 gold key, 3 silver keys, and 5 honorable mentions. Before we recognize each student, we'll hear from an award winner about this honor.
Hello, my name is Cole Click, and I am in 9th grade. I am doing photography, and I am truly honored to be rewarded with a silver and gold key, and also in honorable mentions. I want to take special credit from Mr. Olson and Mr. Mackey, because without them, I would not even be here, because they really taught me a lot about shutter speed, lighting, and aperture, so thank you for them for that. And Another thing is also a picture called See Me, which is my personal favorite piece because it has my sister in it, and also it's really emotional if you look at it, which I really love. And first of all, and finally, thank you for giving me these keys. I really appreciate it. And I am honestly just honored. I'm happy that, I got this stuff. It's awesome. So, thank you.
The following students have earned Scholastic Art honors: Catherine Alquist, Abby Bent, Odelia Brandel, Michael Brandwright, Elise Breton, Cole Click, Afia Furhan, Lucy Finch, Ciara Grad, Gloria Jorzak, Luke Kusar, Kiera Mondale, Miles Novakris, Addie Jo Phillips, Nisa Reisinger, and Julia Terrell. The following students have earned Scholastic Writing honors: Jing Young Bang, Eileen Dosev. Eileen is also one of only 5 regional nominees for the American Voices Award. Her pieces will move on to consideration for national awards. Mei-Ling Mather, Emily Reamer, and Ming Wei Yo. Congratulations to all Art and Writing Award winners on your outstanding achievements. We hope you will keep creating and sharing your creative work. We also commend the district's art and English teachers on these accomplishments. Thank you for the inspiration and the support you provide to our students in their endeavors. First LEGO League is an international program that challenges students to grow their skills in teamwork and STEM. Team Spike Plus, a First LEGO League team from Minnetonka Community Education, qualified for the state competition. The team won 3 awards at state: second place for the Champions Award, second place for the Robot Design Award, and first place for the Robot Performance Award. The team is coached by Alan Jivanatha and Wilbert Go. Let's learn more about the team's accomplishments from students and coaches.
Hi, my name is Alan Jivanathan, and along with Wilbert Go and Matt Lang, we are volunteer coaches for our first LEGO League team named Spike Plus. The team is composed of 8 kids from 4 different schools, including Adley Jivanathan, a 4th grader from Excelsior Elementary, 4 6th graders from MMW, namely Alden Go, Asher Jivanathan, Bennett Lang, and Isaac Wilford, 2 7th graders from Dakota Hills Middle School in Eagan, and 1 7th grader from Maple Grove Middle School.
Hi, my name is Wilbert Go. We are very proud of the team's achievement, especially the advancement to the state championship. This year's team is Cargo Connect, related to supply chain and the transportation industry. The kids were passionate about driver safety. From their own words, driver safety leads to cargo safety. They interviewed a safety director from Minnesota Trucking Association and had a field trip at Coburn's Distribution Center in St. Cloud. Along with their research, they built a working prototype of smart gel belt using a cooling gel pad and Arduino biometric sensors. A major part of the first LEGO League is robotics using LEGO components. The kids experience engineering excellence through hands-on activities and active play. Best of all, the kids gain new friends along the way. Congratulations to our first LEGO League team, Spike Plus.
My name is Isaac Wilford, and I am a 6th grader. The most impactful part of FLL was expanding my creativity. We had many problems to solve with vastly different solutions. Sometimes we had to code solutions, and other times we had to make different attachments to make it work. Getting a state made my team and I very proud this year. I've been in FLL twice before. Both times my team did not accomplish anything close to this year. Therefore, they did not get to state.
I'm Alden, and I am a 6th grader from MMW. Our team went through a lot to get here. Our missions, planning to get about 500, got 260 at regionals, lowering our morale. At the award ceremony, we didn't get any awards until the end, the champions. I coded the base of all the missions and spent hours thinking of the tactics. I want to go farther than the regionals, planning for state, and we might not stop there.
My name is Adlai. I am a 4th grader from Excelsior Elementary. Something that I will forever remember from Rugby League is meeting new friends from all over the Twin Cities and working together as a team to be the best versions of ourselves. Something that I am proud of is that we all supported each other regardless of how frustrating some days could get. Everybody was encouraging, and that helped us get far. It was a lot of work, but it was all worth it.
Hi, my name is Asher. I'm in 6th grade and I go to MNW. One of the most impactful things about FLL was learning about our mistakes and improving. We made many errors when practicing and trying to complete our missions, but even though we failed, we always managed to improve and reach our goals. One really cool thing we did was innovate on our project and build a smart safety belt that I hope we can patent one day. I am very proud of our group performance and hope we can continue to work hard and improve together.
Congratulations again to the following students for achieving these honors: Alden Gohl, Adlai Javanathan, Asher Javanathan, Bennett Lang, and Isaac Wilford. Minnetonka's high school varsity cheerleading team once again earned incredible honors both at the state and the national level this year. At state, they were the runners-up in both the non-tumbling game day and non-tumbling divisions. At nationals, they placed 3rd in both the non-tumbling game day division and non-tumbling world school cheer traditional routine division. The varsity cheerleading team is coached by Andre Brewer, Marcy Adams, Dan Weaver, and Whitney Wilson. Let's hear more about the team season.
Congratulations, Minnetonka High School varsity cheer on another successful season. I'm very proud and humbled to be your coach. Watching you ladies grow so much as athletes and teammates from Denver moving forward was great to see and great to be a part of. You are a part of a special, unique group in that you're one of the youngest teams I've coached ever during my time here at Minnetonka, but yet you managed to put together 2 amazing routines that were able to turn heads at nationals, which is one of your goals. I wish you the very best in going forward and look forward to what our program has in store for the future, given that all of you are able to try out and potentially be a part of the team next year. Congrats, ladies.
Congratulations to the following student athletes: Megan Becker, Ruby Cranbrook, Lauren Dodd, Isabel Herrig, Samantha Hayes, Noelle Kirby, Ryan Kirby, Mila Lewis, Stella Martin, Sophia Passarelli, Lyndon Reinhardt, Claire Tungseth, Molly Yanda, and Lily Zebarth. The middle school cheerleading team also had a spectacular season this year, finishing 3rd in state competition. The middle school cheerleading team is coached by Jamie Schultz and Jackie Erzinger. Let's hear more about the team season.
Minnetonka Middle School competitive cheerleaders had another fantastic season. The summer months consisted of cheering on some 8th grade football teams, and they had so much fun in the process. It is always so great to see them out on the field cheering on the athletes. The girls also participated in the annual Rake-a-thon and were able to spend the morning raking a couple of yards and giving back to the community. They also got a chance to cheer on bikers at the annual Tour de Tonka. It was a great morning being able to give back to the community at an event that honors and benefits so many.
The highlight of the season, however, were the competitions. At each and every competition, the girls ensured that they were prepared to put on an entertaining performance. They came away with the first place finish at their home competition, and the looks on their faces were priceless. To cap off the season, the girls competed at the MCCA state competition and finished in 3rd place out of 14 squads from across the state in their division. They put on such an amazing performance and really left their hearts out on the mat. Time and time again, they continued to support one another, lift each other up, and fight till the very end. We are so incredibly proud of the season they have had.
Hi, my name is Kinley Hurst. I'm in 6th grade at Minnetonka Middle School West, and this was my first year on the middle school cheer team, and I had such a fun time. One of my favorite things on the cheer team was making new friends, trying new things, and just having fun. The thing I'm most proud of me and my team was how we got 3rd place in the Minnesota state cheer competition, we all felt really proud. I'm gonna miss all the girls who are leaving to go to the high school cheer, but I can't wait to be on the team next year.
I'm Lena Botton in 6th grade, and the best achievement that I made was doing really well in state. We worked hard in every single practice and did really well in state.
Hi, I'm Allie Plegenpole. I'm in 6th grade, and something that had a big influence on me in cheerleading this year was that after one of the toughest weeks of practice, we took first place in the Tonka Freeze. Something that I'm really proud of for me and my teammates was that even when we had so many challenges due to COVID and just in general, we got through it together as a team.
Hi, my name is Caroline Dosick, and I'm a current 8th grader at MME. One of the most impactful events of this season was the moment when we realized we hit our routine at state. It was the best feeling. Not to mention, as we were sitting in a big circle at awards and hearing Minnetonka called for 3rd place. Another moment that made me proud of the team was seeing the team come together and step up after many setbacks due to COVID exposures. Many of my teammates had to miss multiple competitions, but that didn't stop us from working hard and coming together in the end.
Congratulations to the following student athletes: Lena Bowton, Maddie Boynton, Amber Cornea, Kaylin Crosley, Lily Davis, Carolyn Dosick, Autumn Drews-Pulowski, Leah Getlin, Hannah Hatzung, Kinley Hurst, Izzy Levon, Zakia Liggins, Valentina Longo-Schumer, Jayun Mackey, Laura Mullen, Allie Plekenpool, Vivian Sensical, Grace Severson, Nora Trombley, and Callie Wilson. Girls and boys varsity alpine skiing teams had perfect seasons, winning every single one of their competitions this year. Both teams won state championship titles late last month. The alpine skiing teams are coached by David Gartner, Marley Gartner, Piper Gartner, and Steve Midthun. Now we'll learn more about the team season from coaches and athletes.
Hello, my name is Dave Gardner, and I'm the head coach for Minnetonka Alpine. On behalf of my assistant coaches, Steve Midthun, Marley Gartner, and Piper Gartner, we would like to congratulate the girls and boys varsity teams on their perfect season. For the first time in Minnetonka Alpine history, both teams won all 6 conference races, the Wild Invitational, sections, and the state titles in the same season. The team's focus on strong fundamental racing technique, dedication to training, and believing in themselves as a team was the key to this year's amazing achievement. Having some fun along the way helped as well. We are incredibly proud of you. Congrats again to the best team in the state.
My name is Isabella Kelly. I am a senior this year on the Alpine ski team. And the most impactful moment, I think, from this season was definitely just hanging out with my team the night before we had to race at state. It was super fun, and we all just got to know each other a lot better. And I'm definitely most proud of both the boys and girls teams winning state. It was the best way to end the season, and it was just super exciting overall.
Hi, my name is Stella Packmeyer, and I am a senior. The moment that was the most impactful for me this year about this activity was definitely crossing the finish line at our last state meet as a senior. Just kind of going over that blue line of dye was just a huge moment for me. Hearing all my friends and teammates cheering for me at the bottom filled me with just like so much joy that I had not felt anywhere else really. And the thing that I am most proud of about my team's performance this year is how much fun we had at every race. Like, I feel like everyone was always laughing and cheering for our other teammates.
Okay, my name's Steven Reddington. I'm a junior.
I'm Ken Meyer. I'm a junior.
My name's Drew Pierce, and I'm a sophomore.
My name's Steve Conlon. I'm a freshman.
My name's Marley. I'm a junior.
I'm Evan, and I'm a senior.
I'm J.D. Landstrom. I'm a junior. Thank you for supporting us and letting us compete at state. Go Tonka!
Go Tonka!
I've tried to cut these corners, try to take the easy way. I kept on 'Cause I'm on top of the world, hey. I'm on top of the world, hey. Been waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to smile, hey. Been holding it in for a while, hey. Take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world. 'Cause I'm on top of the world, hey. I'm on top of the world, hey. Been waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to smile, hey. Been holding it in for a while, hey. Take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. And I know it's hard when you're falling down, and it's a long way up, and you make your round, but get up now, get up now. And I know it's hard when you're falling down, and it's a long way up, and you make your round, but get up now, get up now. 'Cause I'm on top of the world, hey. I'm on top of the world, hey. Been waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting this long, hey. Hold me there for a while, hey. Take you with me if I can. Dreaming of this in the child. I'm on top of the world.
Congratulations to the following students from the boys team: Marley Barrett, Stephen Conlon, Evan Jones, J.D. Landstrom, Caden Meyer, Drew Pierce, and Stephen Reddington. From the girls team, Brianna Giebel, Isabella Kelly, Stella Puckmeyer, Stella Stillett, Safina Switz, Abigail Wagle, and Marissa Whitty. The girls and boys varsity Nordic skiing teams also had strong seasons this year, with 7 students qualifying to participate in the state championship meet. Varsity Nordic skiing teams are coached by Sean Kern, with assistant coaches Ed Atwood, Eric Paulson, Tim Reese, Lauren Dahl, and Andrew Frink. Let's learn more about the season.
Hi, this is Sean Kern. I'm the head coach of Minnetonka Nordic Racing, the Nordic ski team here at Minnetonka High School. This was a really tremendous season for our athletes. They raced really hard. They did their best to improve every single day. I think from the coaching staff, this was one of the most coachable groups we ever encountered. They were just always striving to be better and to do what they could to just make small changes that resulted in really big gains. The end of the season resulted in some really spectacular performances. We had 7 athletes participate in the state meet, which is the most that I have ever qualified under my tenure on the team. AJ Hemmink placed 11th in the boys' pursuit final at the state meet, which is a record as far as I can tell. Elena Hicks was 46th, and Nina Feggi 51st on the girls' side, which is also the best that we've had girls perform at the state meet in quite some time, and they raced their hearts out and had really just tremendous performances. We also had a relay team of Antonio Muniz and Jack Callanan placed 7th in the sprint relay format, which is a new format this season. And then our girls, Greta Weeks and Elise Pudwill, placed 19th in the girls sprint relay as well. So really tremendous racing all around. I was most proud to see how these athletes really came together to support one another and to put the team ahead of themselves so that we were able to experience the successes that we did. Great job, everyone.
My name is AJ Hemmink, and I am a senior, and this year participating in the Nordic Ski State Meet. I just had a really fun time. This is my second year participating, so it was nice to see how far I've come since last year and how much progress I've made. And it was also just nice to see everybody, like all of my friends and all of my family that came out to support me. So it was just a really fun time, and it was, a great way to create memories for the future.
Hi, my name's Nina Feggi, and I'm a sophomore. The most impactful moment of state for me was probably the impact my coaches had on me and how much they taught me and how much I learned from them. Whether it's about Nordic skiing or just general life lessons, they were amazing and really helped me through it. And I'm most proud of the friends I made and how I really just worked together with my teammates, and we were able to get to state and work together, and it was really fun.
Hi, my name is Elena Hicks, and I'm a junior this year at Minnetonka High School, and I qualified for the Nordic Skiing State Meet. I had a really fun time. It was a really great race. Definitely challenging, but I think one of the most impactful things out of that is just like how much keeping a positive mindset can benefit your results. I'm really proud of my whole team that qualified and grateful that some teammates got to come up and cheer for us, and it was just overall a really awesome experience. So thank you.
Congratulations to the following students. From the boys team, Alexander Hemick, Jack Callanan, and Antonio Munez. From the girls team, Nina Fedji, Elena Hicks, Elise Pudwell, and Greta Weeks. This year, Special Olympics Minnesota hosted a Minnesota State High School Unified Basketball Tournament. Unified is a club at Minnetonka High School that offers opportunities for students with and without disabilities to participate in sports and other activities together. Minnetonka was one of 6 schools to participate in the Unified Basketball State Tournament, and our team finished in 2nd place overall. Now we will hear from students about their experience in the tournament and see some photos from the day.
Just to find my way. It might not be tomorrow, might not be today. I can't go back. I can't go back. Now I finally know. I used to be where I wanna go. Now I finally know. Oh, I can't believe it only gets better and better and better every single day of my life.
Hi. My name is Matthew Liu, and I am a 10th grader. I participated on the Minnetonka Unified team as a player in the state tournament. I found the experience to be a great one, as I felt every volunteer and athlete both had fun and meaningful contributions. I am most proud of the hard work everyone put in, and thankful to all of our supporters as we battled placing 2nd at state. I hope to be able to participate again next year with the hope of winning the state title.
My name is Aiden Coughlin. I'm a 12th grader.
And what'd you do Thursday last week?
Basketball tournament.
Where?
The Turkish Center.
How cool is that? What did you do there?
Shot 3-pointers.
Nice. And how'd your team do?
Amazing.
Yeah, did you win?
We did.
What place?
2nd.
In the state?
Yes.
And who's on your team?
Me, Danielle Brown, Sam, Caden, Matthew, and Miss Amy.
Fun, thank you.
Hi, my name is Carter. I'm an 11th grader. What I like best about Unified is playing basketball and hanging out with my friends.
I'm Kelly. I'm in 11th grade. My favorite part of Unified is hanging out with friends and basketball.
Congratulations to the following students who participated in the state tournament: Danielle Brown, Aiden Coughlin, Elijah Harris, Carter Hicks, Connor Claesmat, Matthew Liu, George Lindberg, Bella Marette, Kelly Shaw, Joseph Tadros, Samuel Thibodeau, and Ketev Udopa. We would also like to recognize student coaches Kimberly Wynn and Katrina Tadros, and Minnetonka United advisors Amy Meyer and Kristen Gozer. Thank you all for collaborating to create this incredible opportunity for students. Students, we are proud of each of you for your hard work and teamwork. Our final recognition this evening is for an award earned by Sue Rockers, who is a school nurse at St. Heights Elementary School. Sue was nominated for the Life Changer of the Year Award, which is an honor organized by the National Life Group. The program celebrates those who are making a significant difference in the lives of students by exemplifying excellence, positive influence, and leadership. Now a few Minnetonka Schools community members will share about the impact Sue has made for students in our district.
Well, I truly can't think of anybody more deserving than Sue Rockers for an award. She has been just a shining light in terms of school nursing and really has been such an asset to the Minnetonka Public Schools. Not only does she mentor our new nurses that come into the district and help to shape and form them into competent school nurses, but she just serves all of the students and families in our district with such warmth and enthusiasm. Sue is so incredibly enthusiastic and approaches her job with such a compassion and passion for the well-being of students that I couldn't imagine what life would be like in Minnetonka without her. So Sue, well done. We are proud of you and we are so grateful that you are one of us. Thanks for all that you do.
Mrs. Rockers is a really awesome nurse, and if you come in with a frown, you come out with a smile because of how nice and easygoing she is. She'll cheer you right up.
Congratulations on your nomination, Sue, and thank you for everything you bring to our community. That concludes our recognition program this evening. Thank you for joining us. The school board meeting will begin shortly.
I'd like to call the March 3rd, 2022 school board meeting to order. Let's all rise and please say the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. Can I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda? So moved. Lisa, Katie, second. Comments or additions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our first agenda item is our school report from Deep Haven. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's always an honor to have Brian McGinley and bring a report from Deep Haven. I don't know if you have a team with you tonight or just solo. Okay. So I'll turn it over to Mr. McGinley.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Peterson. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Peterson. I'm happy to be here. Yes, we are finishing up conferences right about now. So I will be here alone sharing with you our report, and it is about building community and empowering our students at school. And the topics under building community will be the professional expectations and reminders for staff, and then the students and staff examples of how we work on building community, how we involve parents and grandparents, and then examples of empowering our students. So this slide's a little busy, but I wanted to share. This goes out in our Deep Haven Daily, and it's different trainings we've had, different things that we've instituted in our school, and it's a way to keep it alive in front of the staff members. So if you look at, like, for example, how to be a highly skilled teacher at Deep Haven, things that we want all teachers to be doing, we put examples in there. And so each example under the red changes each week. So this is just a sample. For example, guided reading, attend a training, and observe a highly skilled and well-trained teacher using guided reading, also read the cafe book. So that there's clear expectations around, if you want to be successful at Deep Haven, these are some things you can do. 17 things that matter most. Great teachers establish clear expectations at the start of the year and follow them consistently as the year progresses. And then we have common language at our school. And so we put that in as well to remind our staff to be using it. And this one, for example, is when a student is doing something they shouldn't be doing, you say, show me a better way to do that, rather than any other kind of random approach to asking them. And by having common language, the students hear consistent, respectful language that helps them make a good choice. Quotes from top 20 teachers. We had a training. This talks about honoring the absent. And so if staff members gone or not with the group, the idea of if we dishonor the absent, we violate the trust with people who are present. So that's basically getting and talking behind people's back, in a poor manner. So That's one of the examples from them. And then social thinking. Here's an example: to provide feedback or shift attention to important information. A teacher may say, keeping our bodies in the group on a field trip helps us to stay safe. And then when your body is in the group, we can start our group plan. And all of our schools are using that quite a bit, as you know. So once again, these are ways to share with the staff what is expected and to also give them support, keeping it at the top of their mind. Here are some examples of how we're building community with our students and staff. So as students enter the building, they're greeted by their classroom teacher. And we've talked about that as a staff and how different that is than if your teacher's over at the desk busy getting ready for the day and you walk in and you sit down. You may not be greeted, you may have come off the bus and something wasn't great or at home. So they get a good read on the students, they welcome them. And then we start with our Deep Haven Daily Report, so the whole school is on the same page. We do our announcements and our pledge through that, and it's conducted by our 5th graders. Then we join together in each room and do the responsive classroom. And that's done every day in every classroom. And that consistency across the grades really creates that sense of belonging. You feel you get greeted every morning. You get to greet another classmate. You build community by playing a game. So they have some fun together and they have to work together. There's a lot of great components to that program and that example of the program, the morning meeting. Then we do, we speak our common language with students, and this has to do with language such as, is that a behavior above the line, below the line, or bottom line? And bottom line behaviors are things that nobody can do, no matter who you are. And then below the line, obviously, are things that we wish you wouldn't do. They're really not good choices. And above the line is where we all want to live. So we have common language such as that. We have our weekly Oveus bullying prevention lesson, and that's consistent K through 5. And then we have buddy classrooms. So with the pandemic, we haven't been able to interact as much. So an example I put up there was you could send a card to your buddy. And so they were like pen pals, ways to stay connected even though we can't get together. And then our parents come in and do CARES lessons on cooperation, assertion, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. They help us out with that support. And there are lesson plans put together for them. So they lead those in front of our kids, showing them that our community, our parents also support what we're doing. And then we have a peaceful bus program where we all find a different spot in the building for each bus, and maybe in here we would have, bus 40. We'd all come together on whoever rides that bus, along with our bus driver, and then staff members spread out, cover the areas. And there's a program that, basically a lesson plan. And they get to know their bus driver, they get to do maybe a question-answer session, they play a game with them. It's ways to really build that community among the students and with their bus driver. And then we do the Tonka Pride Awards, and so our staff and students. Recently we gave one to Kirsten Lunzer for leading our coding efforts. And Wacky Wednesdays are a lot of fun. That's the picture in the upper right. That's our 1st grade team. They were all butterflies this year. And so there's like a fancy day, storybook character day, and it goes on and on. There's one a month, and they're on Wednesdays. And the participation is very high, and you can tell among the staff as well. It's a lot of fun. It's a way to bring good spirit to the building. And then we did Bike to School, and as you can see way down in the back of that picture on the left, you can see all the bikes lined up. It was remarkable each year how many come to school on a bike. And parents will bike with them, or they'll bike with their friends. And we have a nice path, that LRT trail. They can just come down that and come up the back of our building, up the big hill. The best part of it is heading home. You get to go down the big hill, and it's a lot of fun for them. So that was a way to promote community. And then, staff cookout. And that's Bart Iniger and Mike Borgendale. It's never good weather the day we pick. And you can see them out there in the rain. And that's our grill. We bought that with our staff fund. And Bart, he takes the time to cook. Mike's our social committee member, our leader, he's our chair. And everybody brings something, and we have a staff lunch. And then Deep Haven staff clothing. So one of our staff members organized where, it's Minnetonka M, and then it says Deep Haven, and we wear it every Monday. And it's blue and it's fun, and it's easy for the staff to know what they're going to wear each week. There's another deal on Fridays, Tonka Pride Friday, so they can wear another Tonka outfit. And then one of our teachers, Mr. Boberg, wears kind of a comic strip type shirt every Wednesday. So he's got his wardrobe selected for the week pretty much. He loves that. So it shows unity, with the whole staff wearing the same outfit on Monday. And then among our parents and grandparents, every Sunday night, an email called DEVO goes out, and that's called Deep Haven Elementary Volunteer Opportunities. And it talks about all the opportunities that are available in the coming week, and also, in the month, and also long term. Like if we have the parent party coming up, we'll have items there. Please join us for here so we can prepare. And it goes out to every parent, so we really want to involve the whole community. And there's a lot of different opportunities, so depending on your time, you can select which one you want. You can sign up right there on the email. It clicks right into where we have a sign-up sheet. And then Volunteer Code of Ethics is handed out to volunteers that decide to be part of our school, and it gives them basically an outline of how to interact with our school. Number one, you want to be on time. You want to be very respectful of confidentiality. The idea of talking about other parents' kids in the community is not what it's about. It's not about coming in and looking to see how the class is run. It's about really supporting our school, following through on what the teachers asked you to do, and so we try to set our volunteers up for success. But the birthday books is a way that we got around the birthday treats for all the birthdays. And you buy a book in the fall, and you don't get it yet. You come in as a parent on your child's birthday, and you and your child go to the media center, pick out one of the books, and then they put a stamp in there, your name, and your birthday, how old you are, and the date. And then you go back to the classroom and you read the book to the students, and then they celebrate the birthday. And PTA events that we have, like the rest of the schools in our community. One example I put up there was Readathon. We just had that. Parents run it. It's a great fundraiser. And we try to get all of our students reading. And we put a big board out there and show all the classes are progressing. So it's definitely a community builder and a fun event. And our parent party where parents come together. We don't have staff attend, and we don't have students. It's really for the parents to enjoy each other. And I do attend though, but I leave by 10 o'clock and let the parents enjoy the band. Usually it starts right around then, and then I walk out, so they don't have to worry the principal's there. And they don't have to behave, basically. Grand Friends program, love this program. It's retired community members that come in and listen to students read. Had a gentleman write me a letter, and he was going to a school in Minneapolis, but he's getting a little older now. He's about 92, and he didn't want to drive so far, and he lives in the Excelsior area. So he came in, and he has a big, belief in kids reading by second grade. We got him up and running, and then we wanted to expand upon it. So now we have over 20 grandparents that come in and read, and we open it up to basically all of the students, and the teachers just sign up, and each one kind of gets their turn, and it's another relationship they get. If there are certain kids that really need extra support, we'll pair them up with somebody, and it might not even just be reading. Sometimes it's social, emotional support to have another adult in their life. And then I think, one more slide here, empowering students. Our student leadership program, I mentioned this briefly at our other one, but it's open to all our 4th and 5th graders, and we believe we have a disproportionate number of kids that are going to be in leadership positions, and we want to not only teach them leadership skills, but have them do community service projects to employ those skills. There on the bottom left is an example of our canned food drive for the ICA. And then we have two fourth grade students. This is a one-off example. They came up to me, 2 girls, and they said, Mr. McGinley, we really want to raise money for clean drinking water. And so when we get, or if I get those ideas, I love them, and I loved them as a teacher. So I met with them. We had a big meeting, and we talked it over, and they give me the ideas, but they're going to run it, and I help them understand how they can do this within the context of the school. And I said, well, you might, how are we going to communicate, what ways? And then they take the notes, and then they have to go back and they have to prepare it all, and then they come back and show me what they've done, and then we start to implement it when they're ready. In fact, a student, Justin Boyle, did this a long time ago, and he came in with his tie and his briefcase, and he wanted to start the school store. And this is great, we don't have one. What do you want to do? Well, he didn't really know, and so we got to talking, and he didn't have money to buy the supplies. So he went to the PTA and asked for seed money, and they gave it to him. He went and bought the supplies, and then as he raised money, he paid the PTA back. And now this August, I'm going to his wedding, and so that's really exciting. I'm 28 now, and he stayed connected, and we still have the school store because of him. Then let's see where we're at. Oh, did I skip one? Oh, no, I was still talking about the student example. Okay, Lighthouse Publishing, that's on the bottom right. That's an example of kids that you get to write a story, where you're at in your writing. We don't check spelling, punctuation. You can if you want. Your parents can help you. But we really want you to get your idea out there at a 2nd grade level, at a 4th grade level, wherever you are. And then if you write periodically through Lighthouse Publishing, you can see, your writing progress. And I had some former students come back and say, over while we were at college, we came back over the winter break, and we all went over to so-and-so's house, and we brought our Lighthouse Publishing books, and they read them, and they were laughing, and because you look back a little slice of your childhood, and they really enjoyed them. So it's authentic writing, and it's to give young students the belief that I'm a writer, because we know the amount of writing you have to do in high school and in college, and to have a real positive belief about writing in yourself in terms of as being a writer. And then our work around belonging, we gathered some input from our diverse group of students, and I shared that last time I was here. And then daily announcements, they're done completely by our 5th graders, which is really fun. There's a script, there's a plan how they have to do it, and after each broadcast they go to the media center, they prepare the next slide, or the next, basically slides for the next presentation, and then they come in, they do the controls. Kelly Whiteside monitors it, but they do the countdown, they do everything related to it. And the first day they're a little nervous, and then by the end of the week, they're professionals, and it's really fun to see. And you'll see them in the hallway walking down after the broadcast. You'll say, great job on the broadcast, and they have a huge smile. They're stars of the school, really, for the time they're on there, at a week at a time. So those are some examples of how we've tried to empower our students, and there's my presentation. Do you have any questions? And I'd like to thank you, too.
Thank you. Any questions for Principal McGinley or comments? Katie.
Great presentation. Thank you for the updates.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit more on your first slide where it was quotes from the top 20 teachers. Just a little bit more about that. Is that a program that you...
Well, that's a really good question because it's been there a while and I don't recall. I think I have to look into that. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been at the school a while, so I've had that there for a while. And it is one of those things that stuck with me as really being effective. And so it's really time tested, as you can see.
Yeah, that was good. And then I liked hearing about the Peaceful Bus program. Is that something new? That is a really great way to help students with bus behavior, but really getting to know their bus driver. What a great way to build community.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that new as well?
It is a responsive program or a responsive classroom program that they offer. I don't think it's as well known, but it is a great option, and I would highly recommend it. Our bus drivers love it. You know, they all come over, which is great, right? We do it after the middle school drops. They come over, and First Student pays them, so they're a good partner with that, so that they're able to attend, and we have donuts out for them, and they come in, and I mean, they're excited. You know, they get to interact with their students in a different way. So, yeah, it's been
That's
fun.
a really great way to continue to build that community relationship. So, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Loved hearing about all the work doing empowering students, and I loved all the community ones. I really liked the Grand Friends program and really reaching out to. You know, we've talked as a board about how to reach out to. There's so many members in our community that don't have kids in school anymore, and really getting them involved in our schools and understand with the pandemic, I'm sure, but it just such a great way, you know, to engage them and then have them be a part of our schools. So
Thank you, and I'll put a plug in if anyone's watching and they want to be involved, they could contact Principal McGinley over at Deep Haven. We have plenty of students who get into this and then read, so definitely we'd love more.
So thank you for a great report, and you know, thank you to you and your staff.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
It is now time for community comments. Community comments is an opportunity for the public to address the school board with an item included on this agenda in accordance with the guidelines printed on the reverse. Do we have any members of the community that wish? No community comments. We will move on to our next agenda. Don't know what to do with that. We'll just move on to our update on superintendent search and approval of candidates for interviews. I will turn it over to Lisa Wagner and our subcommittee.
Okay, great. Well, I'll wait a minute. I know we have a slide that's going to be coming up, but I'll first give an update in regard to where we're at with our search. We had interviews the last couple of days, and at the conclusion of those interviews, we spent some time deliberating and determined that we would like to see some additional candidates. So I contacted our search firm yesterday evening, and they've been feverishly working away today on determining additional candidates. We do have one candidate to present tonight, and then and approve, and I'll talk about that person in a second. And then we will also have two additional candidates. Those are in the process of being finalized from a pool of 3 individuals. We do have one individual that requested a meeting with our board subcommittee just to talk a little bit about our district. So we'll be taking care of that as part of the process. Our search firm asked us to do that. And then we will determine, or the search firm will determine the final 2 candidates, which will be G and H. We'll talk about F tonight. And then candidates G and H will be interviewed likely on March 17th, given the availability of the candidates. And then we will likely have our site visits, which were originally to occur on the 7th and 8th, will be the week of March 21st. And so we'll be finalizing all those dates in the next couple of days. But I would ask board members to plan on still interviewing candidate F, if we approve candidate F, on March 7th at 5:15. And then candidates G and H on March 17th is the likely date again, and that time will be confirmed, but it will likely start at 4 p.m. And then we will finalize those site visits with the final interviews, but most likely those will be early in the week of March 21st. So a little bit more to come on that as we're confirming availability and interest. We did have several candidates who had expressed interest in early on in the process who had not gone all the way through the process, who now that they've been contacted again did decide to re-enter the process. So these are some new folks that have superintendent backgrounds that they're looking at. So I think that it will be a great process, and we will just take the time that it needs, as we talked about during our deliberation last night. This is an extremely important task that we have in front of us, and we will do what we need to do to get it right and find the most outstanding superintendent we can for our amazing district and our fabulous community. So that being said, I will present to you on behalf of BWP Candidate F. Candidate F's education is a bachelor's from Mankato State University, a master's from Southwest State University, and a PhD from the University of Minnesota. Candidate F began as a teacher, has served as an adjunct professor, a principal, a curriculum and instruction coordinator, a director of teaching and learning, and currently is an assistant superintendent. So I would make a motion that we approve candidate F for interviews on Monday, for an interview on Monday, March 7th at 5:15 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mark? Questions or discussion? I would like to talk a little bit about the dates, but could we do that after, or do you want to do it now?
I think we can do it after.
Let's do it after.
Yeah.
It's not really part of the motion.
So any other questions from board members?
Not a question, but thank you for working with BWP and bringing forth another great candidate. So I'm excited to hear about additional opportunities, and this looks like a great candidate. So thank you.
Just to clarify, you made a comment earlier about how some of the additional candidates that might be coming forth were previously part of the process. I understand that they were not candidates that were previously submitted through this process to the board. So
Correct.
Okay.
Right. These would be new candidates. These are people that BWP had networked with and spoken to, but perhaps they had decided not to enter the process. It's often challenging for current sitting superintendents to put their name out there early on in a process, because then their community is basically notified that they're looking for another job, and that can create a challenge for them. So these are people that were thoughtful about whether or not they wanted to enter the process, and have had additional conversations with BWP and have decided that they would indeed like to participate in our process. So they're just confirming that with them and kind of working through, answering questions, providing information, and they have 3, maybe 4 people that they're considering to then submit to us 2 more for sure to interview.
Okay, thank you.
When we were presented the original slate from BWP, they kind of went through timelines in terms of showing longevity in positions. Did they give you any information about this candidate in terms of like the
Candidate F?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Candidate F has been in their current position since 2020 and has been an assistant superintendent for 5 years.
Sorry, I was looking down. Good? Any other questions? Okay.
Final question. This is for an interview Monday, the 7th.
Correct.
At 5:15.
Yes, candidate F would be interviewed, if approved, on Monday, March 7th at 5:15 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
And it would be the same 75-minute format that we utilized with the other candidates that we've had the last couple of days.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, I should mention one other thing. We obviously have not had a chance to update the website with all of this information, so just for members of the public, we will be doing that in the next few days, but it's very fluid right now, so we want to make sure to update it with the correct information, and once we have it solidified, candidate F will get added in the next 24 hours. And we did also, as a board, decide to eliminate one person that we had interviewed, so that person will be removed. And then the remaining candidates, G and H, whoever they exactly end up being, will be added at the time that they're approved by the board. So.
Good. All in favor of the motion to approve candidate F and interview on March 7th at 5:15, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and I will go ahead for the board and pass out the.
Just looking at my calendar, so obviously the 7th and the 17th. On the 17th, we have a study session scheduled. And so we will have to move that, I'm assuming, that we won't try to put each one, that in each side. So just to let the board and the community know, I would, just looking at my calendar and potential of a finalist interviews the week of the 21st, probably early in that week, I would suggest or propose that we put, that we tentatively say that the March 17th study session be moved out a week to March 24th. There might be things from that finalist interview or things, and we could have a special meeting if we need to at that point. I wouldn't say it's finalized at this point, but I would say tentatively that we would, and then board leadership will work with Dr. Peterson in the district and board members on that date, and we'll get it updated on the calendar, on the website as soon as possible. So probably nothing to approve or talk about, but that's what I think. If anybody has any questions or comments on that piece of it. Great. Anything else? Thank you, Lisa and the search subcommittee. Appreciate it. A lot has happened in the last couple of days, and appreciate BWP working and to get us more candidates, and looking forward to it.
There's 2 extras.
All good?
Thank you to the board for clearing your calendars.
Thank you to the board for being flexible. Our next agenda item is review of fiscal year 2022 amended budget. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we reviewed this with you at the study session and in February, and Mr. Bourgeois is going to go through the details again for your benefit tonight to get the approval of the amended budget. We always amend the budget about this time of the year so that we are recognizing all of the revenues we now know about that are coming in. Often there are changes in some of the state programs or the federal programs. And sometimes we have had to hire staff after the budget's been adopted in June, so we've set up that. This year we have the MTA settlement that needs to be woven into this. We also have some additional expenses for COVID this year that in June we thought we wouldn't have COVID expenses, and now we do, so Mr. Bourgeois will cover that. With all of the changes over the last 2 years with the COVID expenditures and so forth, our projected ending unassigned balance this year is only $300,000 lower than it was last year. And that's despite the fact that there's a negative difference between revenue and expenditures of 1.1 million. And that happens because when you adopted the original budget for this year, we were projecting a different ending fund balance for last year. And then once the books were audited, we found that we had quite a bit more money for the ending fund balance from last year. And so that absorbed some of that shift of actually close to $3 million. We had projected a $1.7 million surplus between revenue and expenditures, and now we have a deficit of 1.1, but it only affected the fund balance by 300,000. So I know the board, I've walked you through that several times, and so I want the board to be clear about it. If citizens want to know more about it, we can talk through it again. Mr. Bourgeois may want to walk through it again too. So Paul, I'll turn it over to you to go through the budget.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pearson, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just a comment on that is we closed the books higher. The auditors verified that for us, so it wasn't something that the auditors found. We basically closed the books and had a lot of open positions last year. We're actually experiencing a little bit of that this year, and we've taken some of that savings as projected budget. We will, at this meeting, we will go over the operating funds. We'll go over the general fund, nutrition services, community ed, and operating capital. The smaller funds you went over in detail at the last session. We'll walk through those for the benefit of the public, and of course the largest of these is the general fund. So there's a little bit of history to go with this, and I just always want to point this out. Fiscal 22 was our fourth year with additional operating referendum from the November 3rd operating referendum election. And back then, our community approved 2 steps of $340 per pupil plus inflation, and that runs through FY 26. Our last allowable levy is the 24 pay 25 levy for fiscal 26. So we'll have to be coming up to a renewal probably in 2023. But that received 72% approval, and it set the stage for continued programmatic stability. FY 19 was actually the third year of the first tier. FY 20 was the first year of the second tier. Each one of those tiers generated over $4 million of additional ongoing revenue for us, assuming that it gets approved in the future to continue. And so that is a very important component of our overall, though actually the referendum is a very important component because we actually get about $1,544 less per pupil in general fund state aid than the average district in the state. So we have to have our referendum in place to make up for the fact that we are sort of on the low end of the totem pole in terms of the way the funding formulas are in the state to generate or to disperse state aid. We are 318th out of 330 districts in revenue per pupil. So we make up for it with the generosity of our local taxpayers. This is a historical chart that tracks kind of before we started looking at doing some enrollment growth and then after that. And on the left side of the chart, even though it's positive numbers, those are just there to show the magnitude, but the red numbers are actually when we had to do budget reduction, cost containment, whatever you want to call it. It started back in 1996. We really had to start looking at that because funding changed across the state. And there was a limit put on referendums at the time in terms of the dollar amounts you could actually levy. You could not increase it that much. And there were some changes in state funding that limited dollars. I mentioned at the last board meeting, my predecessor, Tom Berge, said basically after 1995, fiscal 95, the era of affluence was over because before that, they were able to get additional dollars a little bit easier. So funding formulas were capped, referendums were capped, and it was a different operating message. This particular pattern up through 2006 would have been very normal with everybody else. During this period, I was actually the CFO of Rochester Public Schools, about 17,000 students, and we had a very similar pattern. In fact, we were able to not cut the budget for 3 years out of the 10 I was there. We thought we were doing pretty good because most districts would do systemic and systematic reductions. And why that happens, more on that in a little bit. Starting in 2007, we started growing a little bit in enrollment, but it really kicked in 2007 and then 2008 when the immersion program was rolled out. Dr. Peterson had the immersion program ready to roll out for July 1st of 2007, and that year we picked up 164 students. And we've had additional students then bringing in incremental revenue. And so that incremental revenue has been very important. We've been on a 17-year run of really not having to have a budget reduction process. And if you, as board members, get the AMSD communications, you'll see the annual budget surveys come out, and you'll see districts around us almost every year, if not every other year, having budget reductions, all of our neighbors around us. So we have been a unicorn in the state. And it's important to say that because we're here in this district, and in some respects we're on our own little island. We're focused on this district. We pay attention to this district. We don't really know necessarily what's going on over in Wayzata or Edina or St. Louis Park or Stillwater or Rochester or wherever. And so this is kind of the way you think things should be, and you think things will be the same that way into the future. But the reality of it is things can change, and so we're going to have to continue to work to make sure that things don't change, and we can continue this 17-year run of excellence from a financial standpoint. So this is a chart of our enrollment, and you can see how the resident enrollment stayed relatively flat, and the total enrollment grew because of open enrollment. So we got additional revenues coming in. The one thing I say about this chart that's really important is without this chart never would have happened, okay? So that's the important takeaway from there. Now, why is that the case? This is a chart of a hypothetical school district, Frozen Pines Independent School District 999. And I picked that name because I live on this little goofy loop in the road, and there's a big growth of pines right in front of my house. So Frozen Pines Independent School District 999. Under this hypothetical district, if in year one, say this year, they had $100 million of expenditures. The rule of thumb is expenditures for school districts tend to go up about 4% a year, plus or minus. Step increases, particularly every district, the largest bargaining unit is the teachers unit. There'll be step increases in the 2% range, and then if you negotiate a couple percent increase in terms of a percentage increase, you end up in the 4% range, plus or minus. So in this district, 4% would be $4 million. So the next year they'd be looking at $104 million. Well, if they were like our district, how would they make that up? That's the chart on the right. So if they had $100 million in revenue in the year one to have a balanced budget that year, to balance their budget the next year, state funding tends to go up plus or minus about 2% a year. The revenue formula for the basic formula is 2%. Our referendum dollars are going up at the CPI most years. It'll be different now with the higher inflation factor, but generally, over the long term, 2%. And some of our revenues don't go up by a percentage at all, but if you have additional enrollment, you'll get more dollars, even though it's that same percentage, but you get additional dollars coming in. So you make it up with additional enrollment, and whether it's residential or open enrollment, and you then can balance the budget or have a surplus, as we have been able to do. Now this next chart is actually really important, and it goes from our first year of immersion to the last year that we've had closed out and audited, which was fiscal 21. And there's two chunks of two blue line, or blue group, I should say, and then the white group, sort of Minnetonka colors, but the blue's not dark enough. But I wanted you to be able to see the numbers. And what this does is it gives you an idea of where the revenue increases that we've had every year have come from. And I went back to the budgets from fiscal year 2008 to the actual revenue changes, pulled those out, and then was able to divide it out between how much, in essence, revenue came from the existing students and then getting the incremental little funding formula increases on those existing students, and then the additional students and the all total new revenue from them. Because so if I was in school last year and I'm already bringing in kind of all the funding formulas, but then I'm responsible as a pupil unit, which is what the state calls us, adjusted pupil units. I'm responsible for then bringing those in, but then the next increase is going to be just a little bit. But if I'm a new student coming in, I'm actually then bringing in the full boat of the $11,000 per student. So basically that is that is how these the blue is ongoing students that have been in the district the prior year. White is the additional students for the for that year that came in as new students. Now all this revenue is like layers. I use the metaphor of layers on a cake. I was thinking maybe a better one might be like lasagna or baklava, and it's not because I haven't had dinner tonight. Those things kind of work, but just kind of layers upon layers. Okay, and then this funding goes forward into the future. And so if you look at this, we've had years where actually our ongoing students would have dropped if we hadn't had. There were some tough years, basically. Fiscal 10 was the first year that we had really tight funding and some funding drops because of the bad economic situation that hit in 2009. And had we not had additional students that year, we would have basically had less revenue. We actually did have a year, a couple years later, actually the fiscal years 10, 11, and 12, 13 were really bad years from a state funding perspective, recovering from the Great Recession. And so we did have a year where we lost about 1.1 million in special ed revenue because it was prorated out, and we had some prior levy adjustments down, and a couple other funding formula adjustments down where they were prorated. And had we not had, in fiscal 13, had we not had enrollment growth, we actually would have had negative revenue that year. So the thing is if you add up all those layers of baklava, the white blocks every year, those total out to about $33.7 million that have piled up, and it's an ongoing layers of revenue into the future. So it's been very important. If you go to the far right on this graph, you'll see that it's all blue, and actually we had a little bit of a drop. We actually had, last year we actually dropped in enrollment just a little bit. So even though there's new students coming in and out every year, in terms of the total students, we had a drop of 3. So the thing is if you look at us going forward into the future, if we end up with flat enrollment or an enrollment cap, we will go forward with with continued blue bars, but there won't be any white bars adding on top of that, bringing in new revenue in. So that's just an important point about how we got here and things that we have to think about. At the bottom of the screen, you see that I have what years we got some additional operating referendum in that was spread across all the students. And then also in the fiscal years, I list the number of new students that we had enrolled in the district that year, both resident and open enrolled. So this is an important chart that will keep up going into the future. So now we'll get to the general fund. The general fund for the amended budget is about 144 million in revenues projected and 145.2 million in expenditures. We're showing a net deficit of about 1.1 million, and that could swing either way. We are having issues with trying to fill even like custodial positions and things like that. So depending on how we do there, we might end up breaking even at the end of the year because we wouldn't have expended on positions that stayed open longer than we expected. Hiring is actually, for people who are coming into the work or leaving the district and then trying to replace them, is actually a real hurdle, not just for us, but for a lot of districts. But if we come in at this point, we're projecting a 23.7 million unassigned fund balance, about 16%. And we're looking at 11,187 K-12 actual enrollment as the assumption. That generates about 12,282 pupil units. We've got in there the base increase of the formula for 2.45% for our main formula, and then the operating referendum at $1,827.54. We have just under 822 teacher full-time equivalents on the payroll this year, and that includes 19.41 Tonka Online Comprehensive. We also have the actual total compensation packages for all units, MTA, but then also this is the last year of the other bargaining units, and we have their actual settlements in there with their actual people on the payroll. And then going forward, because we always do a 5-year projection out, just to keep a weather eye on the horizon and over the horizon a little bit, we project out kind of a placeholder of 3% total compensation, so that we have to acknowledge that something is going to be done, but you don't want to be over exuberant one way or the other, so that's kind of a fair bogey, and historically inflation has run at 3%. It's a reasonable approximation going forward, knowing that you'll be plus or minus over that. So on a chart basis, general education revenue, which is what people are referred to sometimes as the formula, the basic formula, basic revenue, is 82.4 million, operating referendum 22.4 million, and then local optional revenue is $724 per pupil, and that actually used to be part of the operating referendum, but the state legislature pulled it off the referendum and made it across the state a permanent levy that all districts get. So it was a situation where we didn't get any more revenue from that, but other districts then did. So they had the equivalent, if they couldn't pass operating referendum, they had the equivalent of $724 of what would have been otherwise been referendum revenue for us and other districts. One more thing, categorical revenue, the biggest chunk there is about $15 million in special education revenue. And then these are the percentages. So 57% for the general ed formula, 15.5% for the operating referendum. and categorical 15.5%. Actually, federal at 3.4%, that's higher than we usually get. We had some additional funds come in from the federal government with the last American Relief Act, American Coronavirus Relief Act, I think ARCA or ARPA, I can't remember, I don't got the initials right, but anyway, the last round of coronavirus relief, we were notified in September after we'd adopted the budget that we were getting an additional chunk of dollars in for that, and that's reflected in the federal amended budget for expenditures. We are at about $127 million in salaries and benefits. We are a people-intensive business, even with all the technology. It takes a lot of people to run our great programs, Immersion and Minnetonka Research and Momentum and all those programs. It takes a lot of good people to actually run them well. Transportation of about $5.6 million. And purchase services of about 6.9, which is up a little bit, but we've had some contract requirements related to just kind of making things work between going through, getting through COVID-19, and a lot of the services, some of those services are related to some of the grants that we've been getting. And then the percentage-wise, 88% salaries and benefits. That's the big takeaway there. Transportation at 3.9%. We are several $100s lower than the state average in transportation. We try to run efficiently there, but that allows us then to push any dollars that we don't spend on transportation into the classroom. So this is a summary of a more detailed sheet on the next slide, but it's just bigger numbers, so it's easier to read. And so you see our actual year end. As Dr. Pearson mentioned, we had been projecting very conservatively, potentially having a $6.3 million loss, but then we also got, towards the end of the year, we got coronavirus relief funds that came in for fiscal 21 that also helped lower that amount. Plus, we had the same issue of having a lot of turnover in open positions and stuff. So from our amended budget to our actual, we ended up being a lot closer to break even. And then it's $1 million this year we're looking at. And the interesting thing about this, if you look at $144 million of revenue and $145 million in expenditures, well, 1% of that is $1,450,000. So we can be 99% accurate on expenditures and 99% accurate on revenues, and if we're off the wrong way, that'd be a couple $1 million. But we think we're going to hit right in here and really close, and hopefully, like I said, we got just as good a chance at the end of the year of having that be a break even. Going forward for fiscal 23, with what we know is in the funding formulas right now, we're looking at a $1.2 million projected surplus. This is just the first cut. It's a really rough cut. Obviously, the legislature's in session right now, and they're looking at a $9.25 billion surplus. So that should result in some additional dollars coming to school districts, which would help improve our position for fiscal 23 and perhaps longer if the funding, any funding increases would come on as permanent increases rather than one-time money. And then we have special education cross-subsidy aid in here of $29.22 and $33.23, which is the in statute. We're hoping to get a little more cross-subsidy aid. That's one of the things the governor had mentioned. He also mentioned potentially as much as 2% additional basic formula increase, which would generate about $1.6 million for us on an ongoing basis if that would actually happen. So all that goes into fiscal 23 to kind of adjust that number up, and then also, again, it's another layer in a baklava extending out into the future. So that changes this projection cascading down. And this is the what we, for some reason, we call it the striped spreadsheet. I guess maybe because it's striped, right? I'm Captain Obvious. But we are projecting a fund balance, again, of $24.6 million, 24.6 million unassigned fund balance. Sorry, I'm on the wrong line. 23.7 million fund balance, 24.6 total. But then we're looking at being able to maintain a positive fund balance even in spite of where we're looking at for long-range projection. And our job, of course, is to work on some things, try to bring in some additional revenue, and look for efficiencies to make sure that we don't hit those rocks that we have painted by radar out on the horizon for our ship to avoid. But this is as solid of a long-range projection as you'll probably find of any district in the state. Our AMSD colleagues, we were discussing these in cabinet the other day, and multi-million-dollar cuts are projected right now, absent any changes, by almost every district in AMSD except us and a couple others. So just some categories, a little bit deeper dive into this. 53.7 million basic revenue generated by resident pupils and 27.9 million by open enrolled. Special education, 15.3 million. And then our categorical revenue of 32.65, that includes a couple $1 million of additional coronavirus relief funds. We also have a chunk that actually will carry over into next year for fiscal 23. And you can see the revenue for transportation fees, investment income, Tonka Online Comprehensive, 3.3 million. Our voter approved referendum at $1,827 per pupil. This is, again, I mentioned, just to repeat though, if you looked at general fund state aid, we're at 318th out of 330 districts in terms of where we rank on the totem pole, so to speak, in terms of almost to the bottom. And we're $1,544 below the state average in state aid. So we make up for that by having our local residents approve our operating referendum. And that basically gets us a little bit above the median. So, and we do a lot with that. Salaries and benefits, again, just some detail behind the same numbers that you saw on the prior slides. Utilities, about 1.7 million. We are all LED. We're actually all 100% sourced with renewable energy, both wind and solar, and or a combination thereof, depending. We have contracts for all of our buildings. We do community solar gardens with community solar garden providers, and we do wind and solar with Xcel, and we're hoping to hook up with Xcel on their on the hydroelectric project that they're doing in St. Paul. That's going to come online, and hopefully that will be coming online about the same time the Vantage Momentum building comes online. So you can see there's in purchase services and supplies, we're actually pretty efficient. So the Nutrition Services Fund, we're looking at being a little bit below break even this year, but that's okay because we have a sufficient fund balance. We are paying more for food. Food is actually becoming more and more expensive. So right now this year, 3.6% operating margin percent, but again, we got a 23% fund balance in there, so we are able to adjust. And we try to run this as an enterprise fund on a break-even level and covering the cost of its equipment replacement so that it doesn't compete with classroom equipment or the needs of the schools in the classrooms for equipment. And so Jane Bender, Kristen Turnblad work with Dr. Peterson to do a good job running this fund. Then our community education fund, Tim Lidfin works with Dr. Peterson to run this fund, and they actually have it bringing in $11.8 million of revenue and about $11.5 million in expenditures, showing a slight surplus, 2%, $230,000, and a fund balance of about $1.5 million is projected, which is 12.9%. This fund actually had pre-COVID was doing really well. It actually did well last year in spite of COVID in terms of, it had its fund balance reduced, but in considering what happened with COVID, it was actually a very good performance financially. And actually a couple years ago, the balance was in a situation where we could go to the state and ask them to allow us to utilize some funds from the fund balance of community education to transfer it over to our construction fund so we could do an addition to serve more students in early childhood family education. And then the last fund that we'll cover, that's our major operating fund, is our operating capital and instructional lease levy fund, about $5.9 million in revenues and a little bit over in expenditures. We actually had a capital project that we did this past summer where we added an additional 21 spaces on to the parking lot at the Art Center, so a chunk of those dollars came out of this fund, which is why it wasn't at break even. We use there's two chunks of money in this fund, $229 per pupil from operating capital. We get about $2.9 million. We use about $1.472 million to pay for some of the bonds that we've issued over the years to pay for, to construct some of the additions and capacity enhancements, additions in parking lots and those types of things. And then we also use about $2.5 million worth of lease levy, which we get at $52, Yes, $52 per pupil, so that we are able to basically pay for the bond payments going forward for the other chunk of our bond. So that $4 million actually supports about $90 million worth of improvements that we've been able to do over the years, including momentum and a chunk of the Vantage Momentum building that we're working on right now. So with that, those are our major operating funds. The other funds we went through in detail on at the last study session, so I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Bourgeois? Can I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 amended budget as presented?
So moved.
Mark, second?
Second.
John? Questions or comments or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Don't go anywhere too far. Our next item is the adoption of the self-insurance fund rates for fiscal year 23. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, as you know, we have a self-insured health insurance and dental insurance program. And it's, as Mr. Bourgeois will point out in a moment, it's done very well over the years. And one of the reasons that our program works so well is the employees own it. They hold down on their expenses, they don't have unnecessary charges, and so that affects the rate that they have to pay. So it really works very well, and of course we've had some interesting ripples with COVID and how many people were not going to the hospital or not going to the physician for various surgeries or treatments. And Mr. Bourgeois will talk about that as well. But this fund has done exceptionally well for people who are covered. I think you told me last time we have about 2,300 lives covered.
2,383.
Nearly 2,400 lives covered with this. And so it's not a big program, but it serves very well. So we have to set the rate now for next year, starting July 1st. So Mr. Bourgeois will walk through the details. Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Peterson, and Mr. Chair, members of the board. So on this one, we're going to talk about a whole lot of nothing, so to speak, because we're recommending to have a 0% increase. But I'll just go through quickly a handful of slides just to kind of explain why we're able to do that and make that recommendation to you as the trustees of this fund. So we're recommending the same premiums for fiscal 23 as for 21 and 22. That's a list of our various plans for the employees that we have. And it kind of lays out the detail behind what type of options they have, what the premiums are, what their deductibles are, and what their the MOOP is, the maximum out of pocket. So this is an interesting fact about our fund. If we approve this premium increase, our 21-year average since the fund was, the initial 2 years of the fund, it started July 1st of 2001. They spent a couple years with a little bit higher premiums to build the fund balance because you need cash to operate this fund because for claims. But once they got the fund balance built in, the 21-year average after that is 3.17% average premium increase, which is in the world of health insurance premiums is extremely low. This is just a graphical representation of that same, different way to graph that same information. Compared to, what this does is compared to the trend. Over the years we've used several different trend surveys, but we've done, again, extremely well versus the health insurance premium trend. So we really, for the most part, we have a small fund, so you do have some years where you might have had some tougher situations, but for the most part, and that's why we have a good fund balance to help with those tougher years. But we've done very well. On a basis of an index, if you look at fiscal 02, which is the first year we started, and that was 100, because July 1st, 2001 was actually fiscal year 02, we actually, had we not done anything and just gone up with the index, we'd be at an index, we'd be paying about almost 600% more for our health care than we are on a per person basis. Now, we've made adjustments, we made plan adjustments and those types of things, but people have done a good job working to keep their, stay healthy and make good choices, as our moms and dads said. But we're at the index is at 190.21. So we've been able to keep that down considerably. This is actually our cash balance. It's not our unassigned fund balance, but it is our cash balance, and it's really important. You do need a lot of cash. You need to carry cash balance of about at least 50% to make sure that you are liquid, because sometimes you have some months where there's a whole bunch of claims that come through. So you can't run this down at $1 million of cash. But you can see the last 3 years in particular, fiscal 20, fiscal 21, and fiscal 22, we're actually the fund balance is going up, and that is 100% related to the impact of COVID-19, because people stopped going to the doctor. So in fiscal 19, we were at 2,199 participants, but our monthly claims per participant, which is the important number on the slide, was $474.14. And what we're projecting is in fiscal year 13 or 23, we are still going to be below the $474.14 based on our projection, even taking the 7.3% claim increase from Siegel. Fiscal 20, our claims dropped to $377 per participant. And you can see it was April. We had a big month in March, but really kind of mid-March, that's where everything hit with COVID, and people really dropped their activity of going to the doctor at that time. So April, May, and June, and even the last half of March, is actually activity really dropped. And so fiscal 21, it stayed somewhat muted, but it started to increase a little bit, so we're up to $410 per month. Fiscal 22, this current year, we're running at about $433 per participant per month. So still well below that 474. And so we are actually projecting fiscal 23 that we're actually going to see an increase per month of about 7.3%, which would equal the trend on the far right. But our projection, taking what we're doing this year and then projecting it into fiscal 23, still projects out to $464.79 per person per month. So on a total revenue, expense, and surplus or deficit showing the last 10 years, you can see where we were floating much more around break even, but then fiscal 20, when everybody stopped going to the doctor, we basically had a huge surplus. And the reason for that also is, in fiscal 21, we actually had a 2.2% premium increase, because we actually set those premiums in February of 20, which was before COVID-19 hit. And we didn't really know what would happen with it anyway. But what happened is then everything dropped like a rock. So we had less activity, but in fiscal 21, our premiums went up 2.2%, but all the activity stayed muted. So we ended up running another $1.8 million surplus. And then we did a 0%, no premium increase for fiscal 22, but we're still running at about a $990,000 surplus because activity is still, relatively muted. So we're looking at projecting out with a zero that we'd be very close to break even. If we have a mild surplus, we have a significant fund balance, to cover that. And if we do, go over budget a little bit with the expenditures, we basically over 2021 and 22, we're looking at having accrued about $5.5 million of a cash surplus in that time. So the way we'll feed that back in the future is actually it'll help us to keep our premiums down, and we'll feed it back little by little that way, because we will be able to absorb a little bit of premiums for the next several years. Excuse me. So we have every year we have to accrue two liabilities. We have a claims runout liability and then something called excess stop loss. The excess stop loss liability is a chunk that we put aside to cover what's called a donut hole for our catastrophic stop loss. every year we get an insurance policy for 25% above the expected claims. And so if you're looking at $16 million, you've got almost $4 million of that would be 125%, that would be $20 million. So you'd have expected claims that you have to cover if you had a really bad, another really severe strain of COVID-19 or something like that, where it really hits us hard. So you have a chunk of money that we also set aside. That's the green dollar amount. And then on our fund balance, we also reserve the remainder of that 25% in this fund as a designated fund balance. But we'd still be looking at about a $7.1 million undesignated fund balance after having about a $7.5 million undesignated fund balance. And the cash dollar amount is almost exactly the same in terms of our fund balance, but the liabilities always go up a little bit every year. The actuaries actually calculate the liabilities for us, and then those actually tend to go up a little bit. But we still would be in very solid shape, even with no premium increase for next year. So that is why we are recommending that you as trustees would approve the rates at the same level for fiscal 23 as they are fiscal 22.
That's great.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Any questions? We can. Yep. Can I have a motion to set the health insurance premium rates and dental insurance premium rates for fiscal year 2023 at the same level as fiscal year 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Lisa, Patrick is second. Comments, discussion, questions? Lisa.
Paul, I'd just like to say thank you to the committee again. We really appreciate all the work and the diligence that they put forth to study it. It's really fabulous to be able to present a no increase, which I know everyone works really hard to achieve that, and so I just make sure to share our thanks with the committee for all their efforts.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, we have our update on training. Whoa. Motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we can move on. Thank you. Next up is the update on training with the Search Institute. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, as you know, a big part of the goals you set for this year include some additional training of staff and students with the Search Institute. And so Dr. Ledoux is going to give you an update. Dr. Ledoux and Sarah White are going to give you an update on the training and some of the feedback we've gotten. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Ledoux.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Peterson, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity for us to be here tonight and to share with you an update on the professional learning in support of Board Goal 1, Excellence in Student Wellbeing and Belonging. Let's see if our clicker's working. Awesome. So the language of the board goal for excellence in student well-being and belonging, along with the belonging or the way that belonging has been defined as a strong feeling of positive connection, acceptance, and importance as a member of our school community, has really guided us in identifying and planning as we continue our work with our staff in professional learning. Tonight, we're here to update you on the action steps specifically outlined related to the training for this area. The Search Institute has been studying the concerns and needs of young people since 1958. And when we began our work on this goal last year, we really identified them as a great match and a partner for our foundational learning for this area. Through their research, they've identified these as the outcomes for students who consistently experience all 5 elements of developmental relationships. And you've seen this before, but I think it's important just to share it again. That sense of belonging, motivation and perseverance, school climate or feeling connected in their school community, feelings of inclusion, higher GPAs, that strong sense of mattering and feeling valued, and finally, personal responsibility. As you can see, these findings really closely align to the district's goals, our commitment to excellence in student well-being, belonging, and excellence in student learning and support. Fundamentally, we believe that every educator and every parent wants this for each child. So, developmental relationships do not happen by chance, and we have been purposeful in the work that we've done with the Search Institute. The goal of this work has been to empower our staff with tools, knowledge, and insights to strengthen our relationships with each student in order for them to thrive in school and in life. This is going to just provide an overview of that journey that we've been on since we began our work in early 2021. The first step with the Search Institute was building that foundation. They introduced us to the fundamentals of developmental relationships with the goal of developing a shared language and a common understanding around the key elements and actions so that we could be more intentional in building developmental relationships with our students. The next step was focused on developing the skills and mindsets needed to create those rich relationship-centered environments. The Search Institute introduced the 2 key strategies to nurture relationships with young people, that being intentional relationships and being inclusive relationships. And again, you've heard us talk about those over the past year and a half, and how to bring those to life with tools and resources, both the activities and actions that our teachers do in the classroom each day, and for them to feel comfortable and tooled to do those as a part of their day-to-day practice in the classroom. And then finally, in order to take action, it was important for us to understand what's the current state of relationships that our students are experiencing. So the developmental relationship surveys that our students and staff completed really are being used to provide us with insights about where our students are at and what they need in order to guide the work that we're doing in our schools in this area.
So in December, students in grades 4 through 12 and at SAIL were invited to participate in the Developmental Relationships Student Survey. All teachers, K-12 and SAIL, were also asked to complete a staff survey. The survey allowed students to share how they currently are experiencing developmental relationships. The staff survey paralleled the student survey and allowed teachers to reflect on and rate their own use of the actions from each of the 5 elements of the developmental relationship framework shown on the screen. In the survey, the definitions of the actions on the framework are fashioned into survey items. For example, the action of expect my best is defined as expect me to live up to my potential, and the student survey item is my teachers expect me to do my best. So you can see how there's that alignment in the actions definitions and the survey items. Here you see our student participation numbers in this voluntary survey by site. As a whole, 1,452 students in grades 4 and 5 participated, which is about 85% of our 4th and 5th graders. 1,920 students in grades 6-8 participated, which is about 74%, and 2,446 students in 9-12 and SAIL participated, which is 69% of the student population. Typically, response rates of over 66% are considered very strong for reliability and validity of survey results. We also had strong participation from our teachers. We had 316 elementary teachers, which was about 71% of our teaching staff at the elementary. We had 125 middle school teachers, which is about 65%, and 163 high school teachers, about 71%. At the conclusions of each of the sessions with both the Search Institute and the individual sessions with sites, we sought feedback. Both the Search Institute and the school district sought feedback from staff on the effectiveness of the learning sessions. The number of respondents to the Search Institute was 205. The number of respondents to the Minnetonka feedback form was 815. The Search Institute surveyed participants on their experience. Overwhelmingly, the staff left the session with a greater understanding of the impact of developmental relationships in Minnetonka Public Schools. They found value in understanding the areas of opportunity. Most reported that the data was the just right amount. Of those who responded to the survey, 97% viewed presenter and Search Institute CEO Dr. Benjamin Holtberg as both knowledgeable and professional. Overall, 77% of respondents were satisfied with the learning experience. Our internal effectiveness survey had a much higher participation rate and similar results. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being little effectiveness and 5 being high effectiveness, the Search Institute portion of the learning was rated as 3.65 on average. Overall, the Search Institute webinar effectiveness was positive, 63.1% effective or very effective, 28% in that neutral range, and 8% ineffective. Participants also reflected on their sessions with their site administrators. The average effectiveness rating went up. It went up to 3.98 on this same 5-point scale. Of the responses, 74.4% viewed this session as effective or very effective, 20.5% viewed it neutrally, and 5% viewed it as ineffective. At the conclusion of our internal survey, we asked our staff to what degree they felt they had the tools, supports, and resources needed to create and maintain a welcoming, inclusive, and safe school environment for each student with whom they work. Just over half of our respondents indicated that they did indeed have the tools and resources that they needed. The remaining 392 teachers, or just less than half, indicated that they would benefit from additional supports and were invited to comment. Nearly 300 individuals provided a comment or suggestion. The majority of the responses were related to professional learning and our most valuable resource, time. Time to connect individually with students, time to meet as a staff, time to develop and implement strategies, and time for additional professional learning. Teachers did also name some specific training topics that they were hoping for more learning around: diversity, equity, and inclusion, social and emotional learning, mental health, and training and resources specific to the LGBTQ and BIPOC communities. In addition to professional learning, some teachers indicated a need to update curriculum and multicultural resources, additional staffing, paraprofessionals, mental health experts, social workers were identified as means to improve excellence and well-being and belonging. They also noted smaller class sizes and additional space as resources that would support increased connection. And candidly, some respondents indicated that they weren't sure what resources would be helpful. All of these suggestions provide insights and guidance as we continue to identify and plan to meet the needs of our staff and our students. As we think about our next steps, this spring, principals will continue to unpack the results and work with their staff to further understand and respond to the data specific to their buildings. We'll be using the staff the feedback from the staff as a whole as we look to planning professional learning for next fall, for this summer, and for the 22-23 school year. Principals also have that staff training feedback specific to their form and specific to their school, and they'll be using that as they plan for next year, this summer and next year as well.
So additionally to some of what Sarah shared, you've heard as our principals have done belonging reports, them share some of their ideas and plans for how they'll use this learning and this survey work to really meet the needs of students in their building. Additionally, as we plan for that next summit around how we're, the resources that we're using around belonging in each of our buildings, this is a topic that we'll be talking with principals about. How might we share the different ideas for how they're responding, both to the training as well as to what we've learned from our student and our staff survey, so that we can really leverage not only what we're learning at our individual buildings, but learn from each other in this area. Finally, as we wrap up, I just want to again underscore, I think that this is the key outcome that we're really hoping for as we think about what we want for the students in our school. As a district, we strive to make sure each student feels heard, respected, included, valued, and connected to our community, that feeling of belonging, and really the work around relationships as that strong foundation really is at the heart of making sure that our students are experiencing this day to day with their peers, with their teachers, and in their schools. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Katie?
I have a couple of questions. So the slide that gave the percentages and where one of the percentages was around actionability, ideas for action to follow up that were generated, that seemed to be the lowest percentage on the slide. Did you get ideas, takeaways on what we can do as a district, or is that what you dovetailed in the end, where the comments of what they needed more, the DEI, the more information on how to support our LGBTQ students, where are the social, emotional, and mental health? Is that the actionability piece?
So my interpretation of those responses is in the session with the Search Institute, they did the high level data, and then they moved into the site experience with their administrators to really look at what are the actions that we as a site are going to take. So the purpose of the site of the Search Institute was understanding data and understanding the survey, so that when they moved into their smaller groups, they could move into the action steps. So I think likely, again, and this is me just surmising, they were expecting to get more directive from the Search Institute, but the Search Institute wasn't providing the direction. The Search Institute was providing the background, so that as a staff, they could dig into the responses and decide what are our next steps.
Got it.
How do we respond to our data at our building?
Good. Okay, thanks for
And one of the important things that the Search Institute talked about with that was, a key part of this work is really their reflection, their interpretation of that data, and then generating some action steps using what they've learned as a foundation, but also what they know about their building and their school community to plan those next steps or to prioritize.
And can I ask another? The slide that said there was a percentage of staff that don't have the resources, are you able to follow up with those individuals to find out, or it might be anonymous, you can't follow up specifically?
Because it is a Google form, and staff knew it was a Google form that, we would know who they were. It wasn't an anonymous survey. We have shared that back with principals.
Okay.
So that they're aware of what are the needs in their building, who are the staff, and can help to support action. Obviously, we'll be working with the principals to support that action, but they do in fact,
Yeah,
or
good.
will know.
We always want to make sure that staff
Right.
feel that they have the resources and supported. And
Absolutely.
great to hear that the additional, not sure if we're going to have time yet before the end of the year, but that the summer academy and fall training, that you're taking those pieces to provide additional PD training for staff.
Yes.
That's what they need and are asking for. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Dr. Ledoux.
Thank you,
Thank you,
thank
Ms.
you.
White. Appreciate it for a great report.
Thank you.
Next up is an update on the Vantage Momentum Building. Dr. Peterson.
Well, the excitement's building, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We've walked through a lot of the planning details with you over the last several months. And Mr. Bourgeois, as you know, has led the team to get approvals from all the organizations that have to approve the project, and he'll get into a little more detail on that. But Mr. Bourgeois is going to talk you through where we are tonight, and we'll be putting this out for bid very soon, and hopefully the bidding climate will be positive. We know that costs are going up, and we're battling that, but we built in some of those safeguards to make sure that we can stay within our expected budget. So, Mr. Bourgeois, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Yeah, we've had a flurry of activity related to the Vantage Momentum building. We've been working through the approval process, meeting with Roger Andre, who operates the program for us, meeting with staff, meeting with students, getting a lot of input, and doing a lot of design work. So we're going to look at what we've got in terms of the layout of the building that we're drawing now, and then we'll go take a walk around the outside, and then we'll show you some initial images of the inside from a 3D standpoint. So again, we're looking at a 36,300 square foot building. I'm not going through every one of these items, but it's just a running total of, or running roadmap of all the different meetings and tasks we've had to do. We got approval from the City of Minnetonka Council on the 25th. Right before that was the Planning Commission on the 17th, and the nice thing about that was we had one of the commissioners on the Planning Commission that said, when I first saw your initial concept, I approved I liked the concept, but I gave you a B- on the exterior, and then he said, but I'm giving you an A on this one, and then the next one said, I'm giving you an A+, and the last one said, I'm giving you an A++. So hopefully you'll see that we hopefully kind of tonkered up everything. So floor plans. This is the main floor. The main entry is where that star will be. We have a kind of a circular entryway, very similar but different to the high school, because this is actually technically part of the high school, but also it's a similar entrance that makes an impression, and you know you're coming to the front entrance when you're going to be coming to the building. To the immediate right of that in the light blue, we have what's called the boardroom that can also function as a workspace for 20. And kind of going counterclockwise, kind of like NASCAR, we go up to the right, and then that's where the staff, what they call the bullpen is. It's an open area where staff is going to be available. They'll all have workspaces available, some private meeting rooms, but students and staff can just come in and interact with staff in that upper right area. The forum is going to be big enough for 140 people for guest lecturers. It will also then operate as a space when it's not being used for the large groups, because the central area will be set up to be able to do things, with smaller groups of 25 to 30 to 40. And then the business pod is global business analytics, and pod is a term that Mr. Andre came up with, and so we've just been using that. But it makes a lot of sense. So that's one of the business pods there that several groups will use during the course of the day. And then to the left, we have the Momentum Pod, which would be have a garage door access, future programming as we figure out what we're going to be putting in there, storage space for materials and that. Very similar to the large Maker Bay that we have just put into the Momentum Building addition at the Pagel Center. Through this, you'll see some light blue areas that say small group, but then there's also yellow dots. And those yellow dots are gathering spaces for students, workspaces, because what the way they'll work is they'll actually have some lectures and they'll do some different things, and then they'll very, very frequently send students to then say, okay, now go and start working on this as teams. And they'll basically disperse to their favorite parts of the building at either the loft or at Vantage West or at the Baker Road site. And they'll just self group, break themselves up into their groups. And so there's places where we're going to have gathering spaces, tables, work areas, plug-in areas for laptops and all that type of stuff. And those are dispersed throughout the whole building. So we'll go up to the top floor, because this building is kind of like, on the front looks like 2 stories, on the back it looks like 3 stories because there's a grade that kind of drops down. So almost like a walkout 2-story house that a lot of people might have in their yards, where from the front it looks like 2 stories, in the back it looks like 3. So you see in the front, the main entry there, we have a classroom for about 20, and these groupings were actually determined by the groupings that they actually use for these various classes. And so we didn't come up with them by accident. We were told by the teachers and by Mr. Andre that they needed these different sizes of rooms. And so we worked really hard to make sure that we got to that. You see the small group rooms, and then also meeting areas. Small group room right over, I think that's going to be the favorite one possibly, because it looks right out over the main entry. But again, going to the right, there's a science lab that's utilized for physiology and human anatomy. We also have the medical sciences or health science lab. That's where we have the hospital beds set up for instruction. There's a couple of general classroom areas that will be used by multiple groups that they'll schedule. In digital journalism and design and marketing, design lab are going to be in what they call that art pod. And then you have the upper level of the Momentum pod, and then we have actually a kitchen that's needed for the global sustainability. Apparently they do a lot of things with plants and things like that. It also will have the capability, if you do like ever do a Momentum strand for culinary arts or those types of things, it could actually do that also. And then again, they needed some groupings for groups of 20, so we have a couple of those on this floor. And those actually are related to also then the needs for Momentum, because those classes will tend to be 20 to 24. And when we have 20, we have it in parentheses because that's an approximation of plus or minus. So we have 40, it's 40 plus or minus. Then we go down to the lower level, and the lower level is, recall that it has to have this new storm shelter. And so it actually literally is going to be a concrete, for lack of a better term, fortress or bunker under the ground to be able to withstand hits by a tornado with 250-mile-an-hour winds. So if a 250-mile tornado comes through and wipes out everything above it and around it, it's still going to be standing, and it has to have its own generator in it to be able to keep people alive for up to 2 hours. And it has to be big enough to take all the occupants of the building down there. So we have this size to house 300 students. It's the white areas are actually related to the tornado shelter aspect of things, for the most part. And the white area up until there's like a yellow coat room there. That's kind of where the storm shelter part ends, because we have an entry by the star. So on the upper right, we have the blue star. That's a lower entry. Students will come in there who are coming off of any shuttle buses. Will come into that entry probably because it's kind of the straightest shot, and then go right in and head up the stairs. And then we have another business pod and a couple of group classrooms capable of grouping for 40. And then you see restrooms down below are in a little bit darker blue. They're another small group room, and then some small group areas. So, so that area is basically all underground. So now what we'll do is start working a little bit on the outside, and this is just a reminder of where we're at. Of course, the traffic will be coming in from the Hannes Road intersection and navigating through the the circulation pattern past Clear Springs. And then as opposed to taking a direct loop around like the Clear Springs parents will continue to do, these cars destined for this area will basically go up into the parking lot. They'll be able to drop at the front entry, or actually at the lower entry, but then make a loop and go out. The most important thing about this circulation pattern to remember is that the Vantage and Momentum start and end times will be staggered with the Clear Springs start and end times. So Vantage Momentum starting around 7:45 a.m. Clear Springs doesn't start until 8:40. Vantage Momentum, they have a 9:45 departure, and then people coming in shortly after that. And they also have a 2:30 departure. Well, the departure at Clear Springs is at 3:20. So it will be staggered in terms of both buses and cars so that they don't conflict with the start and end times of Clear Springs. So that's really important. So here's some exterior images. So we'll start out at the front. So this is where we're at so far. We're looking at doing Kasota blend, kind of a rough cut rock limestone. And then we're going to be doing what they call utility bricks. Doesn't mean cheap, they just mean larger. They're larger bricks, about a foot long and 8 inches deep versus a standard brick which is 8 inches and 4 inches deep. So it gives it a little bit more, it just fits better with the mass of the building. And you can see a similar but different entrance to Minnetonka High School to make sure that this has its own personality, but yet people kind of can understand that it's part of the team. So this is kind of circling around the building, kind of going down the hill towards that little loop. But so we've got the classrooms on the inside. There will be classroom areas are in both those things, looking out into those north windows. Then we kind of go around to the west side. This is what you'll see from Highway 11. And so what we're doing is we're going along with the Kasota limestone blend, and then kind of wrapping around the edge. The long horizontal window there actually goes into the some of the teacher work area, but also it goes all the way across the forum room. So the forum room is going to feel really light and airy and not enclosed. The forum that we have at the high school actually was put into an original auditorium. We actually flipped the auditorium when we remodeled that back in 2009. But it's in the internal part of the building, and there's no windows, and that's what we had. We made, and we did a good job with, that's what we do. We Tonka stuff up and make it better than it was. But it's going to be really nice to have windows in that forum. It's really going to be a showcase place for speakers to come and address large groups. And actually, this whole building, we're trying to make sure that it's something that you as a board can be proud of, that students and staff will be proud of, and that the city of Minnetonka will be proud of, because it is going to be a landscape or a landmark building. There's going to be nothing like it for 4 or 5 miles around. And to the right there, you see the side entries. That's going to kind of where the Momentum garage door and all that stuff's going to be. Here's a little bit more from the northwest, kind of looking back. So if you're kind of coming down 101 from the Hannes Road, lights, and explains it again a little bit. So it's kind of an impressive building, and we want it to look impressive. It's not ostentatious but it looks impressive, stately, and I think that hopefully the tax-paying public will say we're making good use of their dollars. And we're trying to build a building for 100 years. So this thing is going to be here 100 years from now. So we want to make it look good, and we want it to look to last. So some interior images, and these are actually, they're starting to shape up. We actually have had a bunch of sessions on interior design, and we're going to have some more, but we're starting to shape it up and give a little bit of personality to the various areas. So you'll see that here. In some places there might be white where we haven't finished picking a material and things like that. But so if you come in the main entry, this is going to be where you'll have the greeting area. It's similar but different to the Vantage Momentum desk or the Vantage desk at Baker Road. But that's kind of what you'll see as you come in and get greeted by the person at that spot. As you walk through the main doors, we're going to have the Minnetonka M in the floor. And we're looking at a large display wall there with various things that can actually be one big giant image, or it can be different schedules that you can put up there, hello Chris Craft or something, whoever's coming in to speak, those types of things. To the right of the large blue wall with the panel in it is the entryway into the forum. This is what the forum will look like. So very similar to forums everywhere, but it's going to have a kind of a wood look exterior. It's going to be brighter. And people say, well, what happens if you can't see anything on the screen? Well, typically the sun will be, when classes are in session here, the sun is going to be on the other side of the building, plus the building actually faces more northwest. So there's going to be very little indirect sun coming in, but we'll also equip these windows with drop-down screens, electronic screens, so you can just lower the screens to filter the light so that if there's any glare issues, we'll be able to handle it. Make sure that we have a presentation screen up above, so somebody giving a presentation in the front can actually look at their audience while they're looking at the screen to kind of not have to turn around all the time. This is then taking a right and going down the hallway on the main floor, and you see to the right of you, that's the first cut at the boardroom, is what they call it. Again, it's big enough to have the meetings of the management momentum advisory groups, but also it's where they would have their presentations for their various projects. They have what they call the boardroom at the Baker Road site, and this one is actually about twice as big as that. They just said they needed more room. So this is turning around and looking back towards the other end of the main floor. You can see this stairway going around and heading up. So you go down the hallway for other classrooms. Restrooms and all those things are conveniently located just on the other side of the entry. And we have cold rooms and that on this level also, so that people who are coming in the wintertime have a place to, particularly mentors and stuff, have a place to put their coats. So this is what the staircase will look like as you turn around and try to go up. And this is inside the boardroom, so we're actually going to have some things on the wall, but we're looking at kind of a unique beam system up above just to kind of give it a little different personality. With the lights will actually be embedded in the beams. This is an area that is that's near the boardroom. It's kind of gathering space, so the boardroom and actually the forum, so that as you, if you take a break, people will be able to get refreshments here. Students will be able to work here. It's just kind of a nook area that we can create for group work, and then also they have kind of these areas at both actually all three of the current Vantage locations has a very similar to this. They'll probably have coffee for mentors and things like that. And to the left, you're seeing some of the science areas. So this is looking back towards the science area. We got another nook for groups of people to work together collaboratively. The stairs going down is going down to the lower level. Now this is on top, up above, as you come up the stairs, where you have a couple of small group rooms. We have an area adjacent to the elevator a little further down that actually is going to have a bench set into the wall. It's just the way the adjustments of everything worked out in terms of the square footages, and we had this extra space, and we thought, well, let's put a bench in the wall there, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to have these kind of nice wood beams to kind of define the entry area, but then also to kind of create a nook for another small group work area. This is looking back the other way, down the hall to the south. And this is what I think might be one of the more favorite small group rooms, because it's actually up above and it overlooks the entryway down below. It's going to be all glass and kind of hanging out there. So, and what you don't see on here is like the monitors and things like that people will have in all these small group rooms to be able to cast information on. Then we're heading down to the lower level, the entry level. We have a feature wall in there where students will be coming into the lower level door, and they'll kind of turn to the left and see this. And then they'll either go through the doors on the left and go up the stairs to the rest of the building, or they'll go to the classrooms to the right. And so you can see that's a classroom to the right. And actually through the other doors, that's where actually you end up with the storm shelter. In the storm shelter, though, we actually are going to be able to make use of it to some degree. So we will have the floor finished. We'll have several work pods that people can work at. You can't enclose it too much because when the fire marshal comes through and says, "Well, hey, you got 35 tables down here for the storm shelter," you couldn't get everybody in. So but we can at least make limited use of it. So it functions as a big giant hallway, and the classrooms are to the right, and then there's going to be actually these big steel doors that would come down in the event of a real tornado and close it shut so that you could get 350 people down here, and nothing would. A Fujima, I think it is, a Fujima scale 5, F5 tornado could hit it, and they would survive. So next steps, we're continuing plans and specifications. If Mr. Maroney was here, he'd say that they're drawing furiously. We still have to receive watershed approval. We got a meeting scheduled on the 17th, I believe. They just wanted us to upsize the underground tanks a little bit more, so we have to draw that up and then upsize it a bit more, and that'll get approved. We are hoping to issue the construction documents on March 24th, open bids on April 19th, and then have you as a school board approve the winning bidder on April 21st. And then after that, we'll get contracts going. We'll have to get the permit paid for and issued by the city, the actual building permit. We have the conditional use permit. So I would expect to see probably a construction trailer on site, probably early May, getting all set up. You'll see staking going on and all that type of stuff. And I would imagine you'd have a backhoe starting to dig probably late May or early June. So it's on the way. So like I said, this is kind of like an ultrasound. It's like seeing the baby before it's born. So, but hopefully we will. We're going to try to do as good a job for you, and it's something that everybody in the community can be proud of.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Any questions?
It's a beautiful baby.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Thanks.
Mr. Bourgeois, can you speak a little bit about the community impact on construction, like where the vehicles will access and what kind of impact that'll have in that neighborhood?
Oh, sure. Actually, the construction entrance is going to be at the current main driveway into the site off of Covington, so that won't be going past Clear Springs or through the bus corral. They'll be accessing there. It's a natural entryway for that, but that will not be the main entrance. And going forward, it'll be the service entrance.
Yeah.
Great question. Anyone else? Very exciting. Thank you, Paul.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you, Paul.
Can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Lisa, second?
Second.
Mark, I think I heard first. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board reports. Any reports from the board?
I had a real quick one from the ECFE, PTO, and A committee. They are currently accepting Hall of Fame award nominations through tomorrow. Unfortunately, their meeting was quite a while ago, and we haven't had a meeting since they did, but they're accepting nominations through tomorrow and hoping to get some good people nominated for that Hall of Fame award.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Anyone else? Great. Superintendent's report. Dr. Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, just a little update. We've implemented the change in the mask policy that you adopted last week. And I've been in several of the buildings, and there's a variety of different levels of masking, and depending upon the building. One of them had probably less than 5% of the kids' masks. Another probably 30 to 35%. So each one has a little different flavor, and there's no evidence of anybody being disrespectful of the other for masking or not masking, which was, as you know, was a little issue with some people. And then we implemented the bus change that came on Monday from CDC, and MDH gave us a little more guidance on Tuesday. And So we took the requirement off of the buses. Again, a lot of them still have kids wearing masks on the buses, and I think it's reasonable that their parents would expect that, and maybe not in the classroom. And then we also made the changes that I've described to the community on the 5-day option for coming back and all those requirements, which we had tested with the staff, and so we haven't had much chance to implement that yet. As you saw, today, I guess, was the new numbers from the county. Again, over the last probably 5 or 6 reporting periods, it seems like we've been about half of the previous period each time, and now we're down to a pretty low number, and we hope it keeps going, and we have almost no numbers before long. So, we're going to keep an eye on cases internally, so we know if we've got to do something different to moderate that. But we think that the kids were just ecstatic when they could not wear their masks, and so it's been a good week. And of course, now we're into, today was a modified schedule that you approved, and tomorrow's conferences. So we'll see how things go with a full week next week.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Any questions? Any announcements? Great. Can I have a motion to adjourn to closed session for negotiations?
So moved. Second.
Lisa, Katie? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.